there's the sort of things that I can think of, but I'm also thinking, do I know what people overlook?
The first thing I think about, though, is some misunderstandings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think one of the things that I have sort of noticed over the years is how people will sometimes misuse the concepts, and how people think of connection as like this nice word or something, and it's about being nice. And most people who know me know that that's not my top priority, but which is totally irrelevant here. But it doesn't capture what we need to do to cultivate connection, because sometimes that means giving up our image. Most of the time, all of the time, I'd say, it means giving up whatever reified image we have of ourselves to say, oh, I'm relational, and oh, I do good connection. You can hold on to and get stuck with, attached to those images, and miss the entire thing. So I think that's one sort of big thing that we have to think about, that relational doesn't mean being nice. I think Judy has talked 1,000 times about people like seeing the videos and say, well, aren't they just being nice to each other? Yeah. And it's like, no, that actually is not what it's about. It really is about having the courage to show up in ways that the relationship at the moment can stand, and letting things emerge moment by moment. It's about presence. It's about intentional witness. It's all those things. It's not about, I have this image of myself as this nice person. And I think sometimes people might use this whole relational language to avoid the kinds of conflict that we really need to get to in order to be more human, in order to engage more with other people. So, I mean, that's sort of a start, is one of the things that I think about a misuse.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking about that I think is sort of underutilized, right, is the idea of anticipatory empathy. More than anything, anticipatory empathy really calls you to really keep the other in mind. It's not only giving up the image of myself, it's giving up the image of the perfect relationship. It's also giving up the image of who the person is you're trying to relate to.
Absolutely.
Right? And that may be built into what you've always said about giving up the image, but I find that this is a place that people really don't get. They're like, oh, I can be empathic, but it's sort of like, if I hit you over the head, I can then feel your pain. But did I anticipate that what I said and the way that I said it was actually going to hit you in the head? When you're moving into conflict, some of it just happens, right? I mean, and that's kind of the edge of growth. If you're in a relationship or you're moving into one, or trying to have a conversation or whatever, it's not just my ability to be empathic. It's, really being able to think about the other person and have that duality happening in your mind all the time. And I think that's the kind of lived sense of relationship that falls short, partly because it's so complicated, right? I mean, you're really asking people to do something that's very, very, I think, relationally advanced.
And a piece of that is being individuated, is that we do see other as other.
Yes, right.
And I think that's where the disruption comes in, is when we start to see, where is it in me? So that we can sort of get out of that kind of binary or dualistic thinking. And of course, that's comforting. God, no, there's so many people, it's like, that's not me. But to see the whole thing and see how we are a part of it. Otherwise, we can use these concepts that are so dear and that we treasure so much, and these practices that we work on, we can get stuck in a way that makes them sort of power over.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like empathy is this nice thing I'd give to somebody else. Right. But that keeps me in a very comfortable, convenient, elevated position.
Right.
So that it doesn't really get me to go into the field with them.
Yeah. Yes.
Noticing that is really helpful in slowing me down. Slowing down and maybe calming my reactivity a little bit is, I'm having this really big reaction, whether it's like anger or righteousness or whatever. And part of it is because I can see a piece of myself. I can see like the part of me that I really don't want, that I feel very strongly should not be a part of me. I can see it over there.
Right.
And it's messing me up.
There's a lot of shadow and not me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. This is also under a misunderstanding, right? This idea that a growth fostering relationship, is kind of the end point. And of course, in some ways it is, but it's always dynamic. It's always in flux and it changes. And it's, I think about the way even I've taught, right? The 5 good things. These are the 5 good things, and if you feel these, then you're in a growth fostering, it's been very sort of didactic and linear and, kind of cause and effect. And, dopamine doesn't necessarily come right away. There's often a lot of stress beforehand, or, what does it actually take to do kind of the practice that Maureen has described, be it the disruptive empathy. What does that take? And if we're presenting it like, okay, you just do these things and it'll be good, and you'll feel dopamine and then you'll get to act. What we're talking about now, I think where Maureen's pushed the work, it's really a hell of a lot more like going off the high diving board than it is, settling into a comfy couch.
You just made me think about how nice it would be to have dopamine in a spray can.
Right. There was a company that literally made oxytocin in a spray can.
No.
Topical, yes, in a spray bottle. And they called it, get this, of course, it was marketed to manipulate people, Liquid Trust.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that great? Liquid Trust.
Liquid Trust. You are kidding.
And the advert was like, okay, you're going into a meeting with people. Do you want them to respond better to you? Not like, don't be an asshole. Spray them with Liquid Trust. They actually help people. Yeah, unbelievable.
That's how people also mess up this notion of authenticity.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever I'm, like spewing out of my amygdala is authentic.
Right.
And it's not. And it's stuff we're spewing out of our fear and out of our shame and out of all of that, So, if there's one thing I think that we have to learn to do, that I certainly have to learn to do, that is countercultural, is to slow down.
Yeah.
It's like literally to slow down and to pause and to pay attention to our bodies. If we do that, we might be more able to engage with all of those not me parts of ourselves. I'm a person, the other day, I was trying to go somewhere and I just needed to get there really fast. And there was this bird in the street. And of course, I cursed the bird. It's like, what are you doing in my way? I won't say what I actually said to the bird, but I'm simply saying this thing of like, I got to get there. I got to get done. I got to do it my way. I can't be inconvenienced. It's got to be comfortable. And I got to stay comfortable with whatever that means. And so the slowing down, tuning in to how our bodies are sort of doing things. Well, Amy, you did something years ago. You talked about the number of milliseconds it took for, something to come in, through our sensations and hit the amygdala, and how much longer it took to hit the cerebral cortex.
Yes.
And if the slowing down
exactly
might allow us to be more responsive than reactive. I was halfway down the street before I realized I just cursed out a bird.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We're in a stew, right? The entire cultural stew is informing us, is giving us, like, all of our receptors are hearing all the time, go fast, do this, do more, do,
achieve,
right? Achieve.
Get it right.
All of that, right? How do you get to the 5 good things? Slow down. That has to be first and foremost. And that relationships are embodied. To get to the cortex and be able to do something with it, you're already behind the 8 ball. Once you've started a conversation, right? You're already starting to react. And what are the practices that allow one to be able to slow down and listen to yourself, and then again, listen to somebody else? It's a hard task, relationship.
That's the other thing I think about mutuality that people, I think, misconstrue. And because I don't think it's moral relativity. I don't think it's moral
Right.
relativism. You know, some things are not on the side of life. Sometimes the most authentic thing we can do is to move, is to get out. Sometimes the most authentic thing we can do is to realize this might not be the right time or the right person or the right relationship to continue growing this. I don't think we are called here to brutalize ourselves or to brutalize other people. I do think, and this is horrible, you know, for me to say, because I don't want to believe it, but I kind of think it's the truth. You know, all those race riots that were going on January 6th.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think about the guy with the horns and the painted face and all of that stuff.
Yep.
I don't think he's right. I don't think that.
Right.
At the same time, I think what mutuality requires us to do, I think what authenticity and disruptive empathy requires us to do is to say, there's something in his humanity that I probably have in mind. That is when it becomes really tough and really nasty and really messy. And I think that is the real hard work of it. There are some people that I never want to be identified with. And it is in that never that I might find something in me that might be holding me back from being the kind of, I don't know what, medicine in the world that I want to be.
Right.